What's up, horror fam? We are back with another YouTube Live. You're muted, Jonathan.
Hello.
Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Of course, yeah. This is gonna be a really fun one. We have a lot to discuss today.
3 announcements, maybe some house locations, a lot of fun stuff. As you can just see, it's going to be just me and Jonathan rolling tonight. No one secret coming in. No surprises, just us. So I think we can kind of just hop right into it. I think we should just start with the announcements, right? And we'll
Yeah,
do them in the order we receive them. I think is probably the best way to do it.
yeah. It's a great idea.
So, Hollywood, you're going to get your moment because you get to start it off. And it has nothing to do with all the busting comments. Because we're going to head over to Dead Exposure, Death Valley.
Oh, we're putting that art on the stream.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Let's start with the other parts of it first.
Yes.
So Dead Exposure was a rumor for Hollywood. It came to fruition. There were kind of discussions of whether it would be Dead Exposure, maybe Toxic Tunnel, or something else along those lines. They did go with the Dead Exposure naming convention, clearly, because look, it's right here on the screen.
It is. Yeah, it's straight up Dead Exposure, except though we'll get to in a minute. Not really. It's called Dead Exposure.
Do you have the description for it up, Jonathan?
I do. Let me pull it up right now as I'm scrolling through here. And this is Ghostbusters. This is Monstruos. And then this is Dead Exposure. Perfect. So the description is a secret lab's attempts to create super soldiers takes a turn for the worst, creating radioactive zombies who escape just as you arrive. And that's it. That's the description.
Wow, what timing. Just as we arrive.
Perfect. It's really, I mean, there's pictures now of showing what's happening just as we arrive on the facade of like a big, I guess we happen to arrive right when a big truck just crashes right through it, which is kind of funny.
What a moment. But I think we should discuss why this isn't really Dead Exposure in any other way than the name itself.
Yeah.
John Murdy said it himself. That's why. He basically told us, yeah, no, this is just, I was working on it before, and yeah, it has nothing to do with anything else that you guys talked about. Sorry.
It really seems like it's only Dead Exposure in name. Like he even said like he first was making this house and it maybe was Dead Exposure, and he was making it like, nah, it's a different name. And then at the end he's like, yeah, I guess I'll call it Dead Exposure, and I mean, this description that we have right now about like, mutant people, like experiments on people, not really zombies, not really a virus. He's stated there is no virus in this house at all. And even like he's even stated that strobes aren't going to be like, doesn't seem like they're going to be a massive part of this, at least not the way they've been done in the Dead Exposure houses in the past. So I really think this is a cool original. It's just not, it doesn't seem like it's not Dead Exposure. Like it's not.
Yeah, I'm excited for it regardless. I like the concept. But if you aren't aware, Dead Exposure is a series of houses that has taken place at HHN Orlando. There have been 2 of them. One of them in 2008 was Dead Exposure. Exposure actually more relating to camera exposure. And 2018's Dead Exposure Patient Zero, which was exposure to a virus. This house has nothing to do with either of those whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
It's exposure to radiation, probably, is kind of where we're going, right?
Yeah, looks like we're going that route.
So there is exposure involved, but nothing revolving around Orlando's Dead Exposure houses and their stories. So just kind of another fun play on the word exposure and using an existing name within the HHN canon.
Yeah. But I mean, like, speaking of reusing existing, things, can we talk about the elephant in this room? What's on the screen right now? Because I mean, I can't stop thinking about it.
Of course.
We have this art here. This is the artwork, the key art for the house, and it was proven by lots of people on Twitter that this zombie here is AI art from Adobe. I forgot what exactly it's called, but it's AI art from Adobe. It was, my light just turned off. Sorry. But it's AI art from Adobe, and basically it's just stock footage, AI stock photos. and that's not great.
Yeah, that's not great. We kind of made the joke on the podcast, but I mean, if you're gonna use AI, you could do it yourself. They were like, you shouldn't. First of all, you should not do that. But they were so lazy about it. They went and grabbed a image that was AI made by Adobe. Like they went the laziest route they possibly could to get this going. So we know for a fact that the zombie that you're looking at on this key art is AI. We don't know for a fact about the rest, but it seems very likely that the entire image is made with AI.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Because I mean, get it to it later. The other original that we have here that was announced does not look like it was made with AI. So I don't get why for this one they just decided to get lazy and do this, especially with the name. You know, in California it doesn't matter that much, but still it's getting shown to everyone. But the name is potent and powerful as Dead Exposure. They do this. They cheap out and do this. It's kind of, I don't know. It's a little insulting, and I don't know why they went this route.
And as Lauren points out, they have so many talented artists, it disappoints me to see it. Well, they do, because they actually shared these with us.
Mm-hmm.
Actual images created in-house, not by AI, depicting what characters in this house will look like.
I mean, and this looks great. Like it's a nasty zombie with a bunch of green goo, and when you look even at the top of the frame here, you see like some metal thing, wrapping around its head. Like this is gorgeous art. Like and this makes me excited for what we're gonna see in the house. If we see any creatures somewhat like this, not the AI zombie that looks not great, but this art and the other piece of art I'm sure you're gonna showcase as well. This is what gets me excited and hyped for this house.
Yeah, definitely. I did want to focus on one little point before we move on to the other piece of concept art of the other character we received. If you can kind of see at the top, there's almost this little like headpiece that barely cutting on the top, right? And goo leaking from the top. If we skip over to the next one, you kind of get a better view of what that might look like, and possibly lead you to believe that every single one of these characters, or a vast majority of them, might have that kind of ring indicating the brain work that has been done, and that could be a big reason as to why they are the undead of some sort.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna look nasty in the house. Like these are just photos and drawn images. I can handle that. I know it's cool. But once this is put into practice and we see this in real life, and just every scare actor come out, or a lot of them just have their brains exposed, that's gonna make me a little queasy. Like that's really disgusting in a good way. But that probably is gonna have a little bit of a, I don't know. It's gonna have a negative effect on on not my enjoyment of the house, but just it's gonna make me a little queasy. It's it's disgusting.
I guess that's the point, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Want to go back to this one from Seatown 2018 still had the camera gimmick, right? I don't believe any aspect of the camera was involved. There was a lot of strobe and flashing lights because basically the vaccine you were given gave you temporary blindness that would kind of go in and out. So the strobes were almost acting as a way of like, I'm blind, I'm not. I'm blind, I'm not, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing actually camera related like the original.
It was still effective though.
It was.
It was. I mean, Dead Exposure Patient Zero is still one of the scariest houses I've ever done during my first year. It was one of those where I went through a couple houses, I'm like, okay, I got this. I got Horror Nights. I understand what happens. And then I went into this house, Dead Exposure Patient Zero, and I was like, oh, nope, I don't understand. What the fuck is this shit? I'm scared now. And it was beautiful. And the best part about it, besides that obviously had great sets and effects and atmosphere, was the strobes. The strobes were what made it really special. And I'm sure we're going to get to Murdy's comments in a moment, but it doesn't really look like this house is using strobes really in the same way. Like Murdy said it's going to have it, but it doesn't look like they're going to be used that much to like disorient us in the way that Dead Exposure has in the past of like, it turns off for a while and then it turns back on. I don't think we're getting that form of strobe, at least not through the entire house.
Mm-hmm. Seatown says so they brought back the same effect but in a different concept. Sort of. So basically, you were only supposed in 2008. You were only supposed to see anything. So anytime there was light at all, it was coming from the camera flash. That's what you saw. Otherwise, it was dark. So it was kind of very much timed specifically to what they wanted you to see. 2018's Patient Zero was more of just a consistent strobe going on and off as strobes do. So it really did less of a specific effect and more of just kind of a flashing strobe, whereas 2008's was much more intentional on where things were lit up and when things were lit up. So same effect in the sense that it was a light going on and off, yes. Otherwise, no, not the same effect. But as you were mentioning, there is a bit from Murdy. I don't know if you have any of that available to you right now, but I think this would be a great time to hop into what some of Murdy has said because, as usual, he did talk a lot about this house after it was
Oh
announced.
yeah, he talked a lot about both of the originals and barely any about Ghostbusters. But let's get into that exposure here. And the first interesting piece for those who are in Hollywood and understand where the houses are, this will be located in the Mummy Queue. This was honestly, I think everyone was sort of expecting this after like a couple speculation maps went by. This just ended up being looks like an original, is probably an original, and it is. It is located in that space, and I think this is a really fun space actually, because it's very tight. You can have lots of tight sets in here. You probably can control lighting a little bit easier, except when it's light out, because there are like really tight spaces. You don't have to work with like huge environments. And if this house is going the route that it has in the past couple years, it's been in Orlando. If it goes the scary route, the terrifying route, and its goal is to be one of the scariest houses there that year, I think this location is absolutely perfect for that. But moving, I think your
Yeah,
mic's.
my bad. I was gonna say, I think it probably fits well as a location to what I'd expect they'd be going for. You're really not going to need any huge open scenes for the most part. You might get a couple larger ones, but it could be a much more tight, claustrophobic, intense style house.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. But moving on to the next thing, this is obviously inspired by Orlando's Dead Exposure series. And he gave a lot of information. He gave like a big block of text that we're going to read real quick because I think it's quite interesting. Murdy says, this house is trying to tap into the existential fears of our times, as the genre of horror has always done, namely all the online theories on secret military labs and the speculation on what takes place inside. While I did a lot of research on real facilities, the setting in Death Valley is fictional. I figured if you're going to build a secret facility in order to conduct top secret experiments, build it in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. And as for radiation contamination, that's kind of drawn from real life experience. I was an exchange student in Europe in college in 1986 and was actually in the Soviet Union during the Cold War shortly after the Chernobyl accident. Crazy, but true.
Oh, a little more Murdy lore.
We literally got Murdy
Always need some
lore.
Murdy lore with our house lore. I do think it's funny that I know he probably means it more in like the specific place you'll be in is fictional, but he calls Death Valley fictional. It's like, no, that exists. That's a real place. In fact, apparently going to set like the highest temperature recorded in the world like this week or something too.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like almost 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is insane.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
The house is just
Well,
gonna
I won't
pump
be
heat.
there. It's hot enough here. The heat index here today was like 108, and that's enough.
Ugh.
That's plenty. I gotta go to these because we have multiple sorries in a row. Chemo Dog, sorry for borrowing the Dead Exposure name. The hotline, sorry. Sorry for using AI. We're West Coast dumbasses. And to clarify, the hotline, sorry, it's okay that you're late. Don't worry, that's fine.
I love that little story in the comments there. Sorry. They're like, oh, actually, sorry for traffic. That was good. But how are you feeling about? I mean, I really do like the idea of like this being based on like the conspiracy theorists and what goes on in military labs behind and stuff like that and secret labs. Like, I think that's a really cool idea for a haunted house because there's so much fun stuff you can do inside of it, fictional mixed with some, realish things that can make for just a really fun environment with lots of fun effects and cool sets.
Mm-hmm. Narcom, he thinks that he meant the base and Death Valley is fictional. Yeah, I believe that is exactly what he meant. It was just funny the way it was worded that like Death Valley was fictional itself.
But we should move on to this part because this part is like we sort of discussed a little bit earlier. But he says, as for the facade, that big opening isn't the entrance to the house. Something has crashed through the front of it, which will view outside and inside the house. It will continue to evolve in the coming weeks as details get added, and there will be a performer outside the facade, but he won't be talking. And for those who have seen the multiple pictures on social media by now, that thing that has crashed to the front of the facade is in fact a big giant white van. So now we know what caused the crashed opening right there.
Yeah, that's the most exciting thing that could have crashed into it. For sure. Nothing else I'd like to see.
It's just imagine it's just like a bunch of people going like, we're gonna see what's inside this military base, like we're gonna crash through it, but they come in like right as they're in the middle of experiments, like right as they're like doing the things on the soldiers. So then that's why they end up being zombies, because like they stop the procedure mid process. That actually would be really funny.
It kind of sounds like it's somewhere along those lines too, almost potentially.
I think that's a really cool concept.
I think this is a very good point. It sounds more like Havoc Dogs of War than Dead Exposure. This really should have been Havoc Death Valley, not Dead Exposure Death Valley.
People would have accepted that so much more than Dead Exposure. They were like, yeah, this is how I get it. This works for Havoc.
It falls in line with what Havoc is, sort of. I don't know what they're actually using these for fully, but in a similar fashion, it falls in with the Havoc series. And also, people don't care about Havoc as much, so they get defensive about the name.
We don't really give a shit. Like, you stole Orlando's Havoc. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? But we do have some more insight. This house will not have dubstep music, just in case everyone was worried about that. Like we said before,
I don't believe it actually.
Who started it just has it, and it just the first scare is Marty going like, I gotcha. We have this house isn't about a virus, which we talked about before. And how will this house differ from the other Dead Exposure houses? It's an original story, has similar elements, but mostly all new. And another piece that is directly related to Dead Exposure is that someone said I didn't get to do the one in Orlando, but based on walkthroughs on YouTube, it seemed quite dark with just alarm lights as lighting. Do you like that aspect enough to bring it to Hollywood? Are you going a different direction? And Murdy said, thanks. Murdy said different direction. So those were some of our straight quotes from Murdy regarding the relation to the Orlando Dead Exposure houses.
I gotta add this one because when someone asked about Charlie McPherson, which was something that was asked directly to Murdy, someone needs to give Murdy an unofficial guide. Yeah, it seems like Murdy doesn't actually know much about Dead Exposure itself, and kind of only in any reference refers to 2018's Patient Zero, really leading us more into nothing to do with Dead Exposure as a series.
It makes sense why he keeps referring to that one, though, because I mean, I think Murdy has stated or like very heavily hinted that he was going to do Dead Exposure, probably Patient Zero, in 2021 or 2020. And then that got canceled for very obvious reasons. You cannot have a house about a pandemic during a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed like that house probably was already done, or at least treatment was done. Like it was finished, and then it didn't happen. So that's probably why a lot of the times he's referring specifically to that one, because that's probably the one he did a Hollywood take on before this.
Yeah, true. I mean, he did. He talked about it, so it happened. So it makes sense that it would kind of be in his head. Obviously, not the same thing that we probably were going to get, but I can see where the thought would come from.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if we have any more interesting ones. We do. This one relates directly to that terrible art.
Of Extinction Glendale. Beautiful.
So this one says there will be no nuke explosion like the key art because the house isn't about nuclear weapons. I think Murdy even said like, yeah, I guess they just put it in there because it looked cool. But there's no nuclear explosion in my house.
Oh, Murdy. Oh, Murdy.
I love how direct he is. Like, I don't guess they put it in there. I don't know. That's not in my house.
So
yeah,
he fully absolved himself of any relation to this key art. I will say that much. He said, "No, I don't touch that. Don't ask me."
he did that even before it was talked about that people figured out it was AI. Like he said that right away. I have a feeling they never showed him this, or like if they did, it was like the day before. Like, what do you think, Murder's? I guess like
Sure. I don't know what any of that is, but sure.
We got there will be unique character-based effects, which I think he hints at later that it will also have targeted UV. The house will have targeted UV. So I would not be surprised if the unique character-based effects somehow also related to the targeted UV he was discussing.
I think that'll be really cool to see, especially, I assume, a lot of like what we saw, and I can just move over and look at it again. Like some of that goo, maybe, will be UV reflective, stuff like that. Stuff in the brain, maybe.
Ooh.
Something along those lines, right?
That could look so good if done well. It could look so good.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see those effects and how prominent they are in the house and how exactly they execute them.
I completely agree. Something that was, we talked about for a while, the Quonset hut that everyone was thinking maybe was the facade or it was on, symbols and stuff. Like what was the Quonset hut gonna have? What place is it gonna have in this house? And Murdy said that the Quonset hut is actually a thing. It's an element that will be used in the house just a little bit later. So it's not the facade. It's somewhere inside of the house itself.
Can't wait to see it. What dreams are made of, truly.
The house will be intense and scary. Thank goodness. We talked about strobes. Oh, this is a fun one. Because I feel like we should talk about this for a moment. It's not related to Toxic Tunnel, which I do think a lot of people were speculating, maybe that's what this was based on rumors and symbols and stuff like that. Because based on all the rumors you've heard and based on this description right now, the words dead exposure weren't in this title, you wouldn't think it's dead exposure. So it makes a lot of sense why a lot of people, including some of us when looking at the symbols, like maybe it is related to Toxic Tunnel, thought it was, because you would not think this is dead exposure just based on the rumors around this house.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was leaning toward Toxic Tunnel. I'm not going to lie on that. But I think so much of it is just us kind of forcing whatever it was in our minds.
We wanted the joke to be real. We really wanted it to.
Yeah, more than anything, that's what we wanted. What we looked at really could have gone anyway, and we were just kind of we were seeing what we wanted, I think.
Exactly. We want another X. Just have 4 X's in the general public. Like, what the hell? What is this?
In line with dead exposure not being actual dead exposure, we have HHN Hollywood presents Slaughter Cinema, Blumhouse. Oh yeah, we'd love if you guys did that. Please, yeah, do Slaughter Cinema with IPs. Right? Yeah. It'd be amusing to see the blood of slime green, almost neon colors. Agreed. That's exactly what I'm picturing when we talk about UV and looking at that image. So I really do hope that's exactly what we get. Arkham says, "Oh man, we almost could have gotten the original dead exposure in Hollywood. Guess he's joining Halloween 3 and Billy Eyes for abandoned houses." Probably never going to happen now that they've kind of done this version of dead exposure.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I would have liked to see Hollywood's take on Patient Zero, because I think, like, Hollywood is known between both coasts as being the scarier coast. Like, it just has, to me at least, I think all of us, Hollywood has better scares in that regard. Orlando has way better sets and stuff, but Hollywood can hit those scares and really destroy you some years. So I would have loved to see Hollywood's take on dead exposure, Patient Zero, purely for the fact that the one in Orlando scared me shitless. So I can only imagine if Hollywood did it, how I would be like trembling after I left the house. So I do wish we were in that reality where we did get that house, but circumstances happen, and it's life goes on, I guess.
Mhm. I'd like to think at least Halloween 3 is on the table for the future, even if in the far off future somehow, right? And
I
hopefully
hope
it
so.
wasn't like fully like, well, we're never talking to them again.
I don't know. Murdy has it. Like, I think like he's had some comments. People like, "Hey, Halloween 3." He's just like, I don't
Well, Murdy
know.
won't be around forever, so
He won't. Maybe he's the minute
or will
he's
he? Who knows?
he could be a
Who knows?
ghost. He can run it as like a ghost. Like, who
Maybe
knows?
he's working on like this brain operation for himself so he could live forever.
It's
He's like
very
the
possible.
dictator of HHN Hollywood that never dies.
Uh,
Oh, hydrogen. As someone who thinks the past dead exposure houses are dookie, I'm glad they went a different direction. What have you seen of 2008 dead exposure?
Hydra, you didn't even go in like
No.
2000.
You're just saying things to get attention, huh? Is that what's happening? I know who you are. I know what this is.
I will say videos of 2018s are hard. Like, it's really hard to get a great video of it because it's the strobe, and every 2 seconds the lights are turning off. It doesn't look great to people who haven't experienced it, because it's just hard to see. Like, it's just not a great walkthrough to watch. So I get having the feeling of like, oh, those walkthroughs didn't look good, but like, trust me, like if you were there, Duff was there at both of them. I was only there for one. Uh, they they worked. They really worked,
Mhm.
and they were glorious houses.
And you know what? I could accept you saying it about Patient Zero, but you have not seen a video that has more than 7 total pixels about 2008. So, no, no.
uh,
John agrees with John on the way John disagrees with John the way I disagree with you so strongly, but maybe I'm desensitized to Hollywood scares.
I mean, that's fair. If you're from you go to Hollywood all the time. Like, I feel like like you do get used to all the types of scares. Like, I know you said in particular there are so many generic scares that Hollywood does that are so Hollywood, like the big boxes that they come out of, or the black walls, or they have very specific types of scares that are very distinctly Hollywood. And so I get, if you're used to those types of scares, then they're not going to be scary. But for me, and I know a lot of us, because I'm not used to it, and not because I go to Orlando all the time, it usually gets me. Last year was a weird exception where only like 2 houses I consider really scary. But most years, almost every house, it's not great. I'm getting very scared.
Oh, the Hollywood run directly at you scare.
I hate that.
I
Leatherface
know.
ran directly at me.
You love it.
What if one of the actors like tried to like kick you in the balls?
Okay, that was a little different.
A little bit. I mean, they were running directly at you, kind of. Oh wait, no, didn't they stop and do it? Or were they
No,
were
it was
they
kind of like,
charging?
yeah, it was kind of charging. It was more charging.
Uh,
And that wasn't a scare zone. That's different. Way
that's
different.
true. That's true.
Are the rights for Halloween as messy as other slasher movies? It's definitely not up there with like Jason or even Freddy, to be fair. But there are still some different ownerships of the rights depending on the film. So it's not super straightforward. But we've seen they can acquire the rights to basically any of them they want. It's more of Halloween 3 is going to be separated from others they use. So it's not like, well, we got those, so it's super easy to get these.
Mm-hmm. For our next piece of Hollywood news, will there be any special music in the house? And he said, I asked our audio team for a specific style. So that means no, probably, but like, I don't think we're gonna have any like unique music, but I feel like we are gonna have like cool background like music, like maybe stuff pulled from other things, but edited in a way that it sounds really cool and fits the house. I don't know if it's going to be like an original score for Dead Exposure Patients, Death Valley. I don't think so.
I hope so. That'd be fucking great.
That'd be amazing.
Give me
I
that.
love that.
Give me all that.
Uh, Obviously, there's a cold scene, as shown by the second picture of the art, which is cool. I hope that scene is actually cold and it has like freezing AC. I think that could be fun. And I'm trying to think. There was one more thing I was missing. It's not here. But basically, he said another thing that will be in the house in terms of sound design or like Geiger clicks, like in different alarm sounds and Geiger clicks, which is really cool. That can make sort of some really cool sound design in like a radiation type environment.
Mm.
And that's all the Murdy stuff I have for this particular house.
So, Jonathan, what do you think? With everything we know, how I don't need an exact hype list, but is it going to be more near the top or near the bottom of yours? Would you say?
Ooh, with the rumored Hollywood hype list or rumored Hollywood lineup, it's definitely like more near the top than the bottom, just because I think a lot of the IPs that have currently been announced are ones that are going to automatically go near the bottom. I will say this because I'm not sure exactly. I haven't really thought of the hype in my head, but I will say this. I think right now this is my most anticipated hyped original for Hollywood.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Mm-hmm.
I might. I don't know yet. We'll get to a hype episode eventually, but it's definitely near the top, like top half for me, 100%.
Mm-hmm. I just like it when Hollywood does originals. I like when any theme park or any haunt does originals.
I was gonna
And
say, who do you
just
not like doing
Hollywood.
originals?
Only Hollywood's great original. No, I'm kidding. Pandora's box. But I really do love. I really do love when, because Hollywood has so many IPs. When they do have some originals in there, it does help the lineup a lot. And this one, with all Murdy has talked about it, like he gave us so much to talk about. He gave us so much information. He went on like a whole like page rant about it, like on Twitter, that I feel like he is really excited for this one. He seems like he is hype and has a lot of passion for this. And whenever Murdy has passion about something, I feel like I have passion for it, because we can tell that the ones he has passion for end up usually, being good to really good in terms of Hollywood houses.
And then Legends Collide happened. So
Yeah.
but
Well, I forget that one exists.
that's the outlier on the ones he screwed. Because again, Chucky was one that obviously in Orlando, no, thank you.
Mhm.
But I held out hope for Hollywood because Murdy just could not shut up about how much he loved what they did, and it was my favorite house in Hollywood last year. So yeah, so I will have a lot of hope for this, especially when we come to talk to a house that we're going to talk about later, where there doesn't seem to be nearly as much as excitement from Murdy.
Mm-hmm. Completely
But
agree.
let's get to a few comments before we do move on. Here you go, Jonathan. This is just for you.
I don't know who this person is. Every stream, every Discord live, this person's like, I love Jonathan. I appreciate it. It means a lot. But and thank you. I don't know
But
who you are, but
I
thank you.
don't know who you are. Also, we should try. I just tried to look for this. I couldn't find it. Galvanized Horror. Where is this art from Sapphire Falls? Because I can't. I didn't see it when I looked. So
It was
let us
just
know.
released.
Yeah, I
What?
guess so. We'll try to pick that up and include it in the stream.
Yeah.
Hollywood gets right in your face, and I'm not used to it. Same page, Jonathan. You're on the same page there.
Yep. Monsters Unmasked. I was certainly not used to that house.
But then we're going to go the opposite way with Hydrogen agreeing with Huntline that Orlando does a way better job hiding their scares, although the actual scare itself might be lackluster. But I think, to be fair, that probably is more just familiarity with your local event. We're going to be more used to the more hidden, if you will, scares of Orlando rather than the just fucking sprinting at you and being up in your face like Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think most people would agree that the other coast has the scarier event. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do agree with that. I do agree that Hollywood's has more effective scares. I think Orlando tends to have better scare design, though.
Yeah. I can completely agree with that.
Arkham says you don't like Leatherface. Actually, he does love Leatherface. Hope you're ready to face him again if he comes back in Hollywood, which we fully expect this year at this point.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely love Leatherface, and it's just a rumor right now, but it's a rumor that is very much almost, like it's very much barely a rumor anymore. But yeah, as much as he scared the shit out of me in Hollywood, he is one of my Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Orlando is one of my favorite houses. Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Hollywood is Still one of my favorites there. I think Chucky and Scarecrow beat it, but it's still like in the top 3, I think. So I cannot wait for its rumored return, even if he's going to cause me to fall on the floor.
I thought Dead Exposure isn't exactly Dead Exposure. The house would have been low on the hype list for you. No, I'm taking the name out of consideration. I think the concept still sounds a lot of fun, and I think from an original view, this could be very well done house.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I still don't love that they use the Dead Exposure name for literally no reason.
I mean, we were on our latest podcast. Jonathan from the Hotline like talked about it, and it's like, yeah, it's probably synergy. Like it feels like the coasts are combining more and more, especially with we have Monstruos in Orlando now. We have a rumored Hollywood scare zone coming to Orlando. We have lots of things that both coasts are seemingly wanting to connect more and more and more. And this could have just been some executive or someone up top like, hey, put the Dead Exposure name on there. That was from Orlando. That's synergy, So I feel like out of all the reasons, that might be why we just kind of have this plopped onto a random original.
I would be shocked if any executive in Hollywood knew a single original from Orlando.
Maybe it was Orlando
honest.
who told them. I don't know. I have no idea.
So Jonathan, if you want to take a peek, I'm trying to find it, but if you have a second, try to find in that link there.
Oh, it's the link. Okay, let me go on the YouTube real quick.
But in the meantime, Jonathan, you lost a fan. I'm sorry.
Oh, damn.
What have you done?
I missed it. Let me see.
But you're also kind of OP.
Where is that link? I cannot find it in the chat here. Here,
hello.
I'll just type it in.
I'll leave it up for you. Go ahead. Have fun.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, I gotta type all that in. What the? All right.
Oh, someone put it in the 365 Discord.
Oh, that works. Hold on. That's easier for me. Thank you. By the way, this is a reminder that if you haven't joined the Discord yet, it's a fun place to be. You should join it.
It is. There's a link in our link tree, which is in our channel bio. So.
Oh, there you are. I see it.
I can also just pull up Discord. I don't know why I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm just making you do all the work.
This is really interesting.
Whoa.
I'm trying to. What is it? Looks like something fell down. It's like it's a lot of plant life. It's very bright.
Whoa.
Looks cool. I guess I just threw it up on the website randomly. It's not like an announcement, but I like it.
Oh, that is cool. I like that. Here, I'm going to grab these pictures, put them on a slide real quick so we can share them easily.
Yeah, that's perfect. This is great catch, everyone. I did not notice this at all.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm happy with the direction they're going this year.
Mm-hmm. They're really taking the HHN, theme in the hotels a little bit for HHN to a whole new level. Cabana Bay doesn't seem like it's the only one that's really themed anymore. It's looking, at least if this concept art comes to fruition, it's looking like almost every hotel is gonna get a nice bit of theming for the season, which is really cool.
And I know I've mentioned this before, but I really thought they were going to do the exact opposite and start moving away from these kind of themed hotel experiences. Because last year just didn't really seem to do that well, to be completely honest.
No.
But they're actually saying, these should be better. Let's do better. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, they needed it. Like they absolutely needed it. I mean, I think a reason last year's didn't do that well is just because it was almost the same decorations. Like it was like, almost everything was the same. It was like, why am I even, here? But spreading it out and making everything different between every hotel, it now means no matter what, not every single one, but no matter what hotel you go to celebrate HHN, because not every person is going to Cabana Bay. They're not. There's something there that keeps you in the spooky mood, and I think that's a really important thing, especially for everyone who goes to hotels and comes down here for vacation and does not live in Orlando. This is a really awesome thing.
Well, for some reason, Google Slides isn't working, so I'm just going to screen share real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So let's go to... No, not you. Not you. Voila. Can everyone? Is it on screen? Perfect. So the one we're looking at now is going to be Sapphire Falls. That is the lobby area. If you can't tell, you have strong water right off here to your right. Um, so that's a lot of work done to the lobby for just like an overlay for Halloween. I think
Oh
I'm kind
yeah,
of surprised they're doing that much.
it looks so nice too. Like, I really hope this isn't one of those cases where it's like, yeah, the concept art is not as good as the actual product. But I mean, it looks like, I mean, this concept, it looks like they're going all in for this, and I really like that.
Hmm. And then also a look at the bar, the lobby bar at Aventura,
Aliens are back.
which we've already seen, but I figured since we're here, we might take a peek. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty excited for all this because, again, I feel like what they've done in the past along those lines has been kind of underwhelming and hasn't seemed to really pay off for them. Hopefully, this does because this looks so cool.
Oh yeah, it's gonna give us a reason to like hotel hop. Just go to each hotel
Yeah,
and look around.
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's hop into the next announcement we had from Hollywood. Then, once again, an original, um, and one that hadn't been a secret because, again, had been rumored for quite a while. I will say the name it got was, I don't know if surprising, but a tad disappointing, and that was Monstruos 2: The Nightmares of Latin America. It's been said enough, but why do we need the two? Why couldn't it just be Monstruos: The Nightmares of Latin America? It's already a sequel name on its own.
I don't get it. I mean, the two even on the art looks like it doesn't belong there. Like it's just, it's a weird choice.
Yeah, yeah. I think we also have a bit to say about the art here as well. Mainly looking at El Charo, who is going to be the skeleton. Um, why does he look like a completely different art style? Because he is, obviously. Why is he a completely different art style? I guess is the better question than the other three.
It's so weird. Like maybe because you can tell that the two on the right are, like very specific art style. They were made for this year, and then Muerte on the left was the design they used for the previous art. So like maybe they were trying to find like a weird balance where like the art doesn't look weird by having having El Charo that's like sort of dividing the two halves to be like a different style that like sort of blends into the next. But I don't, if that's what they were trying to do, I don't think they pulled that off. He just looks really out of place.
Yeah, he stands out a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, before we get further into that, here is the description for the house. You can try to flee the clutches of the rider El Charo, the devil dog El Cadejo, and the boogeyman El Cucuy, but you can't escape La Muerte. Tickets are now on sale.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you didn't know, looking at this, La Muerte's bottom left, just on top of him is going to be El Charo. The werewolf-looking creature is El Cadejo, and then El Cucuy to your far right.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about with this one, especially that it's a sequel of a house, not that we just had in Hollywood, but we're also getting a Monstruos in Orlando as well, based on the house that was last year in HHN Hollywood. So there's a lot to discuss here. Where do you want to start, Duff?
Were we ready for a sequel for Monstruos immediately after?
Here's the thing. No, but it's not because I didn't like Monstruos. I really liked Monstruos. I thought it was really good. It had flaws that we'll discuss. It had some flaws, but overall, it was my second favorite in Hollywood. The sets were beautiful. I love the characters. And I thought it was just a really cool laid out story with the narrative of La Muerte ending with him saying, this grave is for you, and you dying. I thought that was really cool and a really cool way to a really cool house. I just don't know if I needed to see it the year after when it's also going to have almost the same exact formula. Different characters, a lot different, very different characters from what we've had before, and they're all different. But Murdy has confirmed, and we'll talk about it later, it's following basically the same exact formula as the one before. And I don't know. That's a little, I don't know. I get it, and it's thing that works. I just don't know if I'm going to be super hyped for that formula again, even if I do think it's probably going to end up being number 2 again on my actual ranking.
Yeah, I do think my biggest issue, I know my biggest issue with the house last year was the fact that there kind of was a focal point rather than the three monsters getting their basically equal time. Um, and now we know what's going to happen again. So that's a bit disappointing. Without knowing anything about the house, I would be just I don't want to say disappointed, but a tad underwhelmed that I am getting Monstruos 2 again, like, or the year after it happened. Um, I'm excited. I'm going to get to see 3 forms of Monstruos. I'm not super excited. I'm going to see 3 forms of Monstruos in a 2-year period.
Yeah, I wonder if that's affecting us slightly. Like, even if we're not thinking about it, we're getting Monstruos again in Orlando. The same house as Hollywood last year, but done probably in a very different way. But we're still getting Monstruos. And so I wonder if even if Orlando did not have Monstruos this year, would we like, is there where we still be a little bit more hyped? Like, there'd be a part of us that are like, okay, I get it. Where
I think that's possible.
I think that's a factor that is affecting me. And it's an unfortunate factor because like that's not really fair. It's something happening in Orlando. But I know especially Orlando, I'm going to see that house like a billion times, So by the time I get to Hollywood's, it's going to have a different format. I'm like, all right, Monstros, like here we go again. It's going to be good and it's going to be different. We know this is a compilation that each section is going to be very different from what was before. Each monster has very specific, settings and styles and scares. I mean, one of them is a literal like wolf that's going to have like a puppet most of the time, most likely, it's just, I don't know. It might be a little too much Monstros too fast, too soon.
Mm-hmm. I have a few comments I want to get to, but I'm going to bring this one up right now because it's timely. Some fans might say otherwise. We all know how fans would beg for more. And I think that's true. I will say it tends to be more of a Hollywood fandom thing than an Orlando fandom thing. If you bring back something too fast in Orlando, people are going to lose their minds and say you've done it too early.
Mm-hmm.
In Hollywood, I don't think that's the case. And I think the expectation's actually different. Like, oh, something was good. Let's do it again. In Orlando, it's like, you got to make me want it again. Make me wait. Make me suffer.
Like Slaughter Cinema, we suffered for a long time until they finally announced.
And I guarantee if that would have came back in 29, people would have been upset. They'd be like, "What the fuck? We just had this. What's wrong with you?"
You're absolutely right.
So this isn't Hollywood, so it fits what is more of that mindset from what I can see. So good for anyone who does want it back that soon. For us, and I can speak for the other 2 on the show as well. They have the same viewpoint in where we kind of want a gap if we can have it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a good point from Slimer. I think they're paying homage to horror sequel titles, which actually it's a pretty good shout. That's a very common thing. It's going to be title 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, subtitle, right? So, that could actually really be the case.
Yeah, it's very possible.
And then also, you're right. Monstruos Dos makes it sound a lot better than Monstruos 2. So, Monstruos Dos it is.
There we go.
HHN has a concern. I'm very worried this house is going to have the exact same issues as the first one. It's going to feel sort of samey to not just the last house, but the Orlando one too. The first comment, I think it will feel pretty samey. I think that is my biggest concern. I don't know about the Orlando one. I'm not convinced that Orlando is going to try to do really the same thing outside of the format of having the 3 monsters, right? I think they're going to try to approach it very differently. If they don't, I'm going to be very disappointed with multiple houses because of that.
Yeah, I will say, if you guys listen to that Orlando podcast on Monstruos, you should, because if they go anywhere near that direction in terms of the setting and the atmosphere that podcast was taking place in, and they go that route, it will be very different from how Hollywood does it. Like very different if they actually do the podcast and or like do a similar thing to the podcast instead of just saying, all right, let's just do the the compilation type thing, and it's not like a one-off type podcast.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Murdy did have some to say about this house as well. Do you have those tweets up right now, Jonathan?
I do. Here we go. First thing is that this is obviously, I think we all guessed this very early on, located in the Parisian courtyard. So
Whoa, shocker.
yeah. And he actually straight up said what the facade is. The facade is still the Cemetery of the Lost, the setting of the last house. But it's just a different section of the graveyard. Once you step through the crypt gate, you are transported into the world of Monstruos, and we might spot Muerte out front once again. And by might, I mean we will spot Muerte at front once again. So how do we feel about the location being the same location, kind of?
I have no problem. I think, especially when I'm looking at Hollywood, you can really look at a location for a lot of them and say, they do this kind of house successfully. Obviously, it has a successful history of similar type houses in Parisian courtyards. So yeah, it's fine. It makes sense. It works.
Only problem I have with this location is that it's very easy to do exactly what the first Monstros did, which is exactly what Murdy's doing, and then have the third character take up most of the house. Because once you have that gap, it's like, all right, it's the third character's time. Here we go.
Yeah, like I don't mind Muerte being out front again. I think that's just kind of a continuation of the theme, and I think it probably will work well. Outside of that, I want it to be completely different inside. And it sounds like we might not get that.
Yeah. So, moving on. He stated the idea of a sequel house to Monstros came when they were making the first house. And they greenlit it after seeing how well received Monstros was. Because it was a very well received house. I think people loved that one. And all these characters, if you had a keen eye, were featured in a scare zone a few years back. I forgot what the scare zone was called. Do you remember, Duff?
Pueblo del Terror, I believe.
That sounds right. That sounds right. And he said the reason they were is because it was the testing grounds for an eventual house, and of course, as shown, all these characters have gotten redesigned. And I mean, especially El Cucuy, which I mean, if you look at El Cucuy now compared to when El Cucuy had their own house in 2013, El Cucuy looks completely different. Like, not even close. And I think the redesign is actually a lot better. It looks a lot scarier.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I would hope that means they're not just going to rip anything fully direct outside of something that's truly meant to be a callback. Obviously, the house was over a decade ago at this point, so I feel like they wouldn't do it regardless, but it sounds like it's a fully different take, and I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. I completely agree. We have, what's the theme of the scare zone when you exit the house? The theme is wait and see. Classic Murdy. Murdy hinted that we'll see the Dark Horseman's horse in this house, which is related to the skeleton guy's name is
El Charo.
El Charo, yes. But once we get closer in the season, the names will stick in my head. Not yet, though. We're a little too soon. But that's fun. You know, maybe we'll see like a horse puppet or something like that. That could be really cool. Then we have, here we go. I mean, we hinted at this and we talked about it a little bit, but the division of monsters will be very similar to last year, with El Cucuy getting the biggest chunk of the house. So in this house, El Cucuy is essentially last year's El Cibon, where they got most of at least like 2/3 of the house.
You mean way too much El Cibon?
Yeah, that fits the description. He was the best part, I thought, but yeah, too much.
But was he the best part because he got the most?
Probably. He got the biggest setting. He got the most everything. Yeah, that's probably why he was the best part. Not necessarily.
I think Telawa Pucci and Lechuza got some great scenes, but they all kind of meshed, as we've talked about many, many times, where Cibon got to fully stand out as something different.
I will mention, though, that you bring up those two characters, or all three, right? The first two, Telawa Pucci and La Lechuza, are like bird-like creatures that transform, like they're sort of similar. They're different, but in the house, they were very sort of similar. The one thing I really do like about these choice of Monstros is that they're all completely different. You got a skeleton guy with a bag of coins. You got a wolf. you got a big boogeyman with a bunch of teeth. Like, these are very different monsters compared to last year with, I'd say, two of them, while they are different, like, they were sort of approached in a very similar way. Like, I think both Lalapucci and Lalachusa had scenes where they were just sort of sitting upright, like in a position. Granted, one was a giant animatronic, but still, it's just a little. I feel like these characters will have a lot more differentiations between them compared to last year's.
And looking at their backstories, it sounds like they're different enough where there should be no reason that there would be overlap within the house.
Mm-hmm. So I do think this is a very good choice. But the only choice that I feel like is interesting is El Kikoi getting most of the house. When I didn't experience it, you didn't experience it. Like, we're not gonna complain because we don't know. I haven't watched the walkthrough of El Kikoi in 2013. But they had their own house. Like, they had a full on house in 2013 that was all theirs. And it's interesting that they're getting the majority of this house again. When they did get a huge time to shine. They got a full house dedicated to them. And in this one, it seems like most of the house will once again be dedicated to them. So I think that's an interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of El Kikoi, let's get into some of the details specifically about this monster. And that the division of El Kikoi's nursery rhyme will be present in the house. He's straight up confirmed that. And this is a very interesting one. El Kikoi's cave might be a location in the house, which means it will be in a location in the house.
Oh, Murdy.
It's gonna be the new sack. Like, that's what's replacing it.
It's not the same.
No,
nothing will be the same as Sealbone Sack.
Yeah, you can't make any jokes about it. Just a cave. Like, boo.
Give me time. I'll think of one. We're good. I'll figure
Just give El Kikoi a sack. Like, it's fine. Give everyone a sack.
Everyone can have a sack. It's okay.
No one will be mad. And will we see any callbacks to the original El Kikoi maze? And he said, perhaps. So that also means yes.
Oh, Murdy. Let's move on to a comment here. From Arkham. If they expand the world of Monstruos, I don't mind. Actually, mausoleum from another entrance, or is it a different building? It sounds like the way he said it sounds like it's a different part of the graveyard entirely.
Yeah.
Right? And not just the same mausoleum at all. I guess to be seen, because he didn't fully say, but the way he worded it definitely sounded like we're just going to a different part of the graveyard completely.
Someone tore down that mausoleum. They're like, this can't exist. This isn't real.
There's no such thing as a two-story.
Exactly. Someone just got a bulldozer. It's gone, unfortunately.
El Charo has a big sack of coins. That is true.
That would have been perfect.
We got our sack. His big sack of coins.
You just walk in. It's the same set, just with coins instead of bones. I'm like, all right, I'll take it.
Woody's Adventures. Hopefully we get those cool art pictures again before entering the monsters section. I agree. I thought that was a pretty nice touch. And really the only way for part of that house where you knew where the fuck you were.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Always got to love original art sprinkled through a house. It's good stuff. Not AI shit.
Did we have anything else from Murdy?
We had a couple more. Yes, this is important. Will we see any of the large-scale figures returning? We'll see. That means yes. So I wonder what character would get a large-scale figure, or if it would be like a part of a character, like some, like the horse, or maybe the wolf get the El
Cadeo.
El Cadeo. I'll get it. I'm gonna get it soon. Well, maybe that will be like the giant animatronic, because you can do that with a big wolf-like creature. You can pull that off with that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It'd be, if this is in order, if it's first, it goes in order left to right of the picture here. Technically, that would fit perfectly with how Lalachusa was. Lalachusa was right in the middle and had the animatronic section.
Oh, that's true. Also, I think if you're looking at any of these, obviously the horse would be an option. I feel like Cadeo would be the more likely option to go with, though.
Mm-hmm. Probably. You know, it could be real if it has blood all over its teeth and mouth, and the eyes literally light up like the picture, and it's just, you know, maybe eating something or something like that. Oh God, that could be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, there's another thing. There will be a lot of puppetry for El Cadejo, which I think we expected, and Muerte will be voiced by the same person.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's most. You know, Murdy did say some other things, but I think that's the good chunk of what he said for this particular house.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff he says is just kind of the most useless reply ever. To be funny on Twitter, which is fine. I think that's great. Just kind of useless to us on this live stream.
Mm-hmm.
KS says, fingers crossed on more Monstruos merch choices. I think Monstruos merch is something I will always grab if it's there, based off 1 year. So I think I'd keep that going.
I didn't grab it. I should have. I only
Oh,
grabbed
really?
I only grabbed the Terror Tram shirt. That was it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Next, if it's back and the art is a little bit different, I might grab it.
I'm sure it'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
Monstruos, too big, too sack.
If it was called that, be the best name of a house of all time.
That's a good reason to include it too. I'm just saying.
It's true.
I think this going back to Cadejo, that'd actually be terrifying before scary. You'd see the eyes light up before it lunges at you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like that. That'd be really good use.
God, it would. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, yes, we did miss a piece from Murdy.
Mhm.
Bad news, no white Cadejo. God is not allowed in the cemetery, as Murdy put it.
Mm-hmm. That's a fun fact.
All right, well, before we move on from Monstruos Dos, what are you thinking? Lower half or upper half of your hype?
It's certainly not lower half. Though I guess maybe I have to like put it up because I guess Hollywood only has 8 houses, but then I'm including the Terror Tram. I don't know. I don't know how to do my. Anyways, it's probably at least in the middle. Probably a little bit higher than that. I have to like actually put them out. I'm still excited for this. I think it will likely be in the top 3 at the end of the day. Like I just think it will have solid sets, and you know, I doubt this goes below 3 at the end of, you know, or whatever. It's just hard to be super hyped, even though I know it will probably be good, just because I'm getting overwhelmed with Monstruos. Like we're getting a lot of Monstruos, and I think, especially by the time I go over there after we've experienced Monstruos however many times in Orlando, the hype is really gonna die down until I like walk in it. So I think in terms of a hype list, because the purpose of a hype list are what are you excited for, not what do you think will be the best. It's gonna be near, I'd say, either the middle or like slightly top half, but it's probably not. It's not going below the middle, but it's not getting like super high. Like I know for sure there's at least 2 houses that are above this already in my head. No,
Yeah.
3. Yeah, 3.
I mean, just based off the fact that there's only 2 originals in Hollywood, and I'm typically going to have originals higher on the list, this will get high. I will say I'm not as excited as I was from Monstruos last year in Hollywood. So, upper half, I'd say, maybe closer to the middle. But it's not something that's going to be fighting for the top spot on my hype list for sure.
Makes sense.
All right. What do you say we stay in Hollywood while also moving to Orlando? Because we had a bi-coastal IP announcement. Probably the least shocking house announcement of the entire year. This was, I think, the first correct rumored house, and maybe the first rumored house, period. And I think we felt confident for this for about 6 months at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So let's just play the video of this IP.
Warning. Unusual audio-visual activity in your house.
I love this town.
You're on thin ice, buddy.
Yeah, if you say so.
Mijo, get your butt in here. You left the TV on and this room is a disaster. the wrong neighborhood!
Face an icy new evil. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Only at Universal Halloween Horror Nights, where horror lives.
And that's Ghostbusters Frozen Empire coming to HHN Orlando and Hollywood.
Oh, the poor YouTube comment section.
I saw a lot of people who did not like that announcement video. And I have to say, it wasn't as good as A Quiet Place, but I still think I like the way they're doing these. And I thought it also had a pretty good tone for what Ghostbusters is. It kind of gave you just a slight bit of what you're going to get from Frozen Empire, and having that humorous aspect that Ghostbusters is, of course, going to bring.
Yeah, I mean, I think it hit everything that they wanted to hit. It had some references, had really amazing special effects for HHN announcement trailer. Like, if you watch that first Ghostbusters announcement trailer from 29, amazing trailer, one of the best. But like, the effects aren't nearly as beautiful as these. Like, they're not, you know. So the special effects budget is ramped all the way up. The fact that they're able to use the music from Ghostbusters, they don't use the song, but they use actual music, really gets you invested into it and get you really excited, you know, once you hear that. And it was funny. Like, this is a great trailer. It really is, for an IP that we're going to get into it. We're not really that excited for. I thought it was a really great way to announce it.
Yeah. It's no secret that we're not the most excited for this. But I do think it was a really well done announcement video. Again, I still have not seen Frozen Empire either. So I don't fully know what to expect from that film on its own. I don't want to say it's made me excited for it, but I wasn't like, oh, when this dropped. Also, we can't forget Otis. Otis. Yeah, Otis, of course, makes an appearance as he has in the other announcement videos that we've seen. It's the same Otis we've seen, so not much to discuss about that. But going to this instead, how can anyone not like that announcement? I agree. I don't fully get what people see in it that they're like, oh man, I hated that. I
Some
think
people thought it was
effects, well acted.
Yeah.
Humor.
Some people thought it was too jokey, like it was too comedic. And it's like, but
it's Ghostbusters.
It's Ghostbusters. Like, you know, that's the whole point. You're not expecting to go to the Ghostbusters and get the shit scared out of you. Like, it's just it's comedy, it's goofy, it's silly. Like, the villain is, you know, like, scary. Like, the villain does look, you know, mysterious and dark, and, you know, especially if you haven't seen the movie, you're probably like, what? Whoa, you know, this character, you know, looks like they're gonna cause some mayhem or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's Ghostbusters. It's stupid. Like, that's the whole property's gimmick. I don't get what the problem is.
Yeah, I don't either. But whatever. It's just an announcement video. At the end of the day, it's not that important.
No.
Now, it does, of course, come with a description. Do you have that up, Jonathan?
I do. I'm going to say the right one this time. So, Ghostbusters, this is the little longer one from the press release, but I think it's more interesting. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire will transport fans of the film franchise to New York City, where the Spangler family teams up with the original Ghostbusters, who are now at the helm of a top-secret research lab for their ghost-busting enterprise. With the daunting discovery of an old relic that has set free the vengeful spirit of Garaka, who threatens to freeze everyone to death, Ghostbusters new and old must join forces to protect their city and save the world from a second ice age.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
That sounds like Frozen Empire, I think. Sure.
It certainly is the movie that I watched. That's it. That is the description of the film.
Now, of course, we got more details. Not as many, but more details from John Murdy, right?
Well, before we even get onto John Murdy, I feel like we should continue that press release, because the press release has a little bit more details about specific locations we might see in the house.
Yeah, let's hop into it.
So it says, as guests venture through the haunted houses, they will find themselves in the sinister world of the supernatural, from Ray's occult bookshop to the Ghostbusters' new high-tech lab and containment facility to the dank New York City sewer system. Fans will embark on this petrifying journey alongside the Ghostbusters, encountering iconic ghosts who slime and nefarious villains who are out for revenge. all while trying to escape an army of ghastly creatures bent on cracking bones and turning their veins into rivers of ice. There's some interesting details in that.
Well, that part sounds dark, that's for sure.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it happens a couple times in the movie, maybe.
A couple times, hell yeah.
Yeah, like 2. Anyway, so let's just go over the locations they just gave out, right? Because we have information about what this house might have. And the first one is Ray's Occult Bookshops, which we have even more sort of details or more even insight about, how we get into Ray's Occult Bookshop from our friend Kevin, who goes and gets us our pictures for Hollywood. So thank you so much, Kevin, if you're still watching. But basically, he took a picture of the facade in H lot in Hollywood, H lot tent. I think it was H lot tent 2, and was like, I think this is Ray's Occult Books, and it was like just a slab, like it was just a wooden slab, and it's like, you kind of see that, and then more details started getting that. It's like, oh, wait a minute, this might be Ray's Occult Books, and then like that last update we had before the announcement, which is right here. I mean, there were so many details that were so, so accurate to the Ray's Occult Books, like that little section there with like sort of the squares going around the door or the rectangles, and like the window there, and like sort of an area to put the sign above it. And even like on the right with like the sort of garage section that's now painted black. It, Kevin figured it out before it was even announced that this is Ray's Occult Books, because it absolutely is. Duff, you muted.
Oh no, I'm muted. I say yeah. We've mentioned it before, but Kevin is basically the facade whisperer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
It's truly impressive how early he's been nailing them.
Oh yeah, and I think for a setting to start off the house with, I don't know if both coasts are going in the same direction. I kind of hope Orlando's doesn't, because I want to see a firehouse facade. God damn it. But if both coasts do go the same direction, I think Ray's Occult Books is a very smart way to start the house, considering if there are those who watch the film, that is where stuff starts to happen. We start getting the introduction of the conflict of the movie or the mystery of the movie, and it happens right in that building. So it makes sense why the house would start in that location.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a good point.
Ah! Duff, are you there? Oh, okay. Well, I'll take it from here. My face is very big here. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
you got it?
I don't know what happened. That was weird.
That was I was like, oh no, I'm put on the spot.
There we go. As someone who saw the movie, there is no scene of the sewer. There was a ghost called Sewer Creature, but we don't explore it. Jonathan, I think there's probably a good reason why that is, and we will see it, right?
Yeah. So the sewer. The next location that they announced here. Well, not the next one, but the third one was that we're going to explore the dank New York City sewer system in this house. And yeah, there are a couple theories of why we might go here. Like you said, the New York City sewer system is not a part of the movie in terms of we never go in there. That is not a set location we actively go under and explore in the movie. It is not, that does not happen. But there is a scene where they are trying to catch a ghost. It's like one of the first scenes. It's not really a spoiler. And the ghost is called a sewer dragon because it comes out of the sewer and it sort of flies around in the city, blah, blah, blah. So I could see them using the sewer as a way to implement that ghost that they can't really do in other settings because it is a big flying monster. So it's easier to just like, what if it's just hanging out in the sewer? But also, I don't think you're going to build a whole scene of like the sewer system just for one creature. Like, I feel like there's more to that. And I think it's really interesting that the house, one of the main locations they announced on this press release, is a location that's not in the movie. It's not. Like, you don't go in it. And I wonder if that means, which we'll get to it when we talk about Murdy, if they are going a slightly original route than we might have expected by the name Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. That's directly, just the movie title. Like, maybe they are, when we go in the sewers, maybe we'll explore different things. Maybe not just the sewer dragon, but also maybe pink slime that has been known to be under the sewers. Maybe we, go in the sewers and enter the abandoned subway, from there and see the ghost train or something like that from Ghostbusters 2, or the heads on the sticks that go around them. That probably a very easy prop to implement. This is one of the key elements from the press release that makes me go, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I'm happy that they're doing this for this movie that doesn't have a lot to work with. And maybe the creatives saw this movie doesn't have a lot to work with and said, all right, we're going to do the movie, but also we need some filler. And so they might have some elements from the other movies in here, possibly, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Now, I kind of want to tie this in. Kyle brings up that he wasn't into the movie, and the house may be a different story, so they're remaining optimistic, which is always great. You should, regardless of what you feel about the IP itself. Tying in what you said, if there are other features of this, of the other films involved, this is kind of directed at the chat. Would you be more excited for Frozen Empire if we got more from the Ghostbusters series than just that single film? Because having not seen Frozen Empire, I still think I would be more excited to get something specifically from like Ghostbusters 2. I think would be great to pull from.
And this isn't a spoiler. The movie, like all of the marketing for this movie was that we're going to feature every ghost. Every ghost will be in Frozen Empire. Get ready to see every ghost. And you don't see every ghost in the movie. You don't. Like, the only ones you see that are from past movies are the ones that are in the fucking trailers. So if the house actually fulfills the promise of the marketing and does show not every ghost, but like a good chunk of ghosts from the series, I think that could be a vast improvement and could possibly make this house better than the movie.
Mm-hmm. Which, wow, we got a question very similar to that. Do you think that in the movie, like Exorcist Believer was? I'm not going to make any predictions. Again, I haven't seen the movie anyways. It happens more often than I'd expect it to, though. So you never know. It really could be.
I having seen the movie, I predict it will. I really predict it will.
Yeah, okay.
If they go,
I think on your end, it won't take too much to do that, right?
Oh no, you'll watch the movie like, yeah, anything could be better than. It's not a bad film. It's just a film that is a movie, and that's kind of what it is. It's a movie you watch and then you forget about it.
All right, yeah, great. Can't wait.
So fun.
Now, we did have more info from Murdy this time, I believe, right?
Yes, we did. Let's get into it. Murdy directly states that it is based on the 2024 film Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, but it will also feature ghosts from the overall Ghostbusters franchise. And while talking about that, he also mentioned there's going to be a lot of surprises that he's not going to spoil, but it seemed like those surprises were almost referring directly to things that are not just in the film, which I think that is so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that's direct, specifically for Hollywood, is that this is located on H Lot North, which we already showed a picture of for that facade, confirming that location is in fact Ghostbusters. And the last piece of information is that the house will have a ton of effects. He has not given nearly as many details as any of the other originals. I don't know if this is like a sense of like he just doesn't care about it, because he does, like his comments he made, he does seem like he's pretty excited for it. He just seems like he doesn't want to say anything about it, just in terms of like there are surprises here, and if you give up the surprises, and especially in this type of house, if the surprises are literally things that are not in Frozen Empire, that would hurt the house a little bit if you knew that what was coming. So, I hope that this is a case of he's not talking a lot about it because he is excited, not because he's not really excited. But we'll see.
Or he legally can't.
That's probably the real answer.
Yeah. C-Town might be right there. I think this is also another fun way you could do that original aspect. I would expect this to go into the containment grid like the 29 house, since it cracks open in the film.
I think they could do that. I think it's possible.
It is definitely a great way to find an original concept to an IP that exists. Like we've gone into the door in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and we ventured further into the depths of the tunnels within House of a Thousand Corpses and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think 29's Ghostbusters' biggest fault for me, specifically in Orlando, because I didn't experience the Hollywood one, is that it literally just went beat for beat from the movie exactly. It had like one scene that was a little original, but it just went by so fast. And if this house actually does sort of say we're not doing that route and we are following the movie, but we're having a little bit of, extra stuff added to it. I don't know. I think there's even a world where to me, it's better than the one in 29 if it actually just strays away a little bit from the actual story of the film and just goes like, yeah, we're having fun with this property now. We don't have to just do a book report anymore. It's not just remember Ghostbusters. It could be like, we get to play in the world now. We don't have a lot of, I hope they don't have a lot of like, obligations for this type of movie. Maybe they just get some freedom and get to do some things the way they want to do it. Maybe.
I hate to say 29 is not the highest bar, but
I mean, yeah.
I would love it to be better. But to be fair, even if it kind of just matches that level, for what the IP is, it's fine to kind of reach that mark.
That's true too. Because
then it's going to be, not the bottom, but also not very high, and that's a fine place to be. The lower middle pack.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's kind of more. Our next question, of course, would be like, oh, where would it be on your hype list? Kind of. I think I know the answer for both of us. It would definitely be lower.
Oh yeah,
it would definitely be lower.
Very low. Not the lowest, but low.
Arkham says the key art looks good. However, what is going on with the merch? Well, funny you should ask, because right now you're looking at the key art, which I do think it is the best key art, non-original key art we've had so far this year, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it is just kind of the poster from the movie, but it's good. Like, it looks good. It's very beautiful.
However, for the merch, they didn't just throw the key art on a shirt or a hat or anything like that. They mixed it up a bit. So we're going to go over to Five and Dime at Universal Studios Florida, where we had our merchandise reveal for Ghostbusters. You can already see right here the difference in the key art, where I believe Garaka is the name of that villain, correct?
Yes.
Is now above the Universal Studios arches. I'd like to remind you, Universal Studios Florida is where this was taken. Those arches are of Universal Studios Hollywood. So all of the merch has Universal Studio Hollywood's arches, which is not the first time we've had this. It's gone the other way sometimes as well, but we are now back to doing this, which is always a tad disappointing. So moving on to the merch, it's literally what we're going to see on the shirt. A much more prominent Slimer than you would have seen in the key art, which makes sense because they're trying to actually sell this. Otherwise, basically the same thing with the arch.
I like it.
It's same little sleeve tag.
I do like that sleeve tag. I think it's actually pretty solid merch. Like, granted, my only other comparison with IP merch, right this year is Quiet Place, and I did not like that at all. Like, I really thought that was bad. I no like for that. But this, I think it's really a cool concept to be like, oh, they're walking to Universal Studios, and inside of Universal Studios where all the madness is happening. I think I'm a nerd for that. I think that's fun. And the Slimer is good too. So overall, I think it's a great design. I just hate on an Orlando level that it's this Hollywood arch, because I think if it was an Orlando arch, I probably would not have gotten it, but I'd be like, oh, maybe, maybe. But when it's the Hollywood arch, immediately I can't get it, because why would I wear something with the Hollywood arches on it when I don't go to Hollywood? I only go to Hollywood like one day out of the year compared to Orlando, So that's my thoughts on it. I think it's good. It's just the arches are what strays me away from it.
I think the big thing for me is I just kind of miss when they actually did park-specific and coast-specific merch. Rather than, and we understand why they do it. It's much cheaper to just make a design that will go to both coasts. Done, right? That's why they do it.
Oh yeah.
I don't have to like that they do it, and I don't. I think it would be so cool if you could go to Hollywood to get this exec shirt, and then here in Orlando you could get a shirt with our arches. But I think we're way past that time ever happening again. So
unfortunately.
So let's move on to the other piece of merch. There were only two. We did not get cups, mugs, little plastic display pieces, or anything like that for Ghostbusters. We did get a hat along with the shirt, which that print quality is something.
You could see it from the camera lens. Like, it's not a terrible design. Like, I think it actually, like, the little ice around it and the sort of ghost stuff around it is fun. Having Garaka front and side, like, that's fun. It's not terrible. Like, it's not awful. It's just like you said, it's the print quality. It's the way that you could just see the outline of the graphic like so clearly. It's so obvious it was just put on the hat like that I would never want to wear something like that that looks that low in quality.
And I mean, seeing the outlines that clearly is bad enough, but I don't know if you could fully tell in this image. But on specifically where it says Frozen Empire, you could see literal creases in the print.
Oh, I think I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know how well it shows on this picture, but in person, literal creases on the print itself.
No.
Yeah.
Let's hope this is one of those hats that doesn't end up being sold like in the event itself. They're just like, oh, we got to get preview merch to get this hat out, you know?
I will say the only positive, it's not another one of the puffy trucker hats. And they did do, not that I love a Velcro hat, but it's still better than the very super cheap trucker hats to me.
Yeah.
And we still have that same tag that you would have seen on the sleeve of the shirt. Also, this is a print as well. Printed a lot better than this front print, though.
Very true. Very true.
Now, there is one more thing we want to discuss about Ghostbusters, because it's going to be about the entire event of Orlando and slightly even Hollywood. And that's if we go look at this price tag real quick.
Ooh.
$33, great. Yeah, I love it. Sure. What we're really looking at here is where you're going to see s'mores. You may or may not remember, but s'mores was the code name for Ghostbusters, the house in Orlando. If you go back to when Universal Studios Florida released all of the permits for the houses or applied for all the permits for the houses, each of the house locations had a code name. We have now found out, obviously, as we're looking at, that Ghostbusters is s'mores. Kind of what we all expected it to be completely honest. Well, this isn't the only place they've leaked these code names to associate with the houses. Because if you go to the Discover Universal blogs for all of the house announcements, hidden within their URLs are going to be their code names.
Mm-hmm.
So we now know the location for all 8 houses that have been announced in Orlando.
Are we ready for me to just to fire them off?
I think you could just fire away. Yeah, why not?
Amazing. This is actually thing for our next episode that we're going to release. Here we go. Monstruos, which was codename Flan, is in Soundstage 23A. A Quiet Place, which is now codename Cookies. I still don't get the reference, but whatever. Is in Soundstage 22, which means it has its own soundstage. Ghostbusters S'mores is in Soundstage 23B. Triplets of Terror, which is codename Fudge, is in Soundstage 24B. Oh, Major Sweets, codename Pie, is in Family. It's in Fast and Furious. Goblin's Feast, which is codename Sunday, is in Sprung Tent 4, which is one of the new Sprung Tents. Slaughter Cinema 2, which is codename Cobbler, is in Sprung Tent 2. The Museum of Deadly Exhibits, which is codename Baklava, is in Sprung Tent 1. And there it is. There are all the 8 houses that have been confirmed about where they are at Universal Studios Orlando. Duff.
Sorry, I keep doing that because the clicking.
Good.
I know it doesn't mean that much in the grand scheme of things, but it is fun to see it this early and kind of visualize the event as it will be. I do know that there are one of these that kind of disappoints you quite a bit. And I'm going to step away for 1 second and let you rant about it. Because I know you can spend some time on this.
I can. Like, listen. I get every year there has to be a house. Oh my God, you're gone on the screen. You disappeared. Okay. Every year there has to be a house in Fast and Furious. I think that's what's going to happen. Something's going to land in that spot. I'm very concerned that Major Sweets landed in that spot. I am very hyped for Major Sweets. It is in my top 3 on my hype list, or just like a spoiler. I'm very excited for it. It was a scare zone I loved. I think even translating the house can be even better. And I'm just really concerned about the space in Fast and Furious for it. I mean, there's been no visible construction of anything inside of Fast and Furious. The extended queue is still open to this day, so it's clear they're probably not going to use it. The only thing that has been seen are the tents that are about the same size that they were in Blumhouse. Though they have had like extensive construction, like it seems like they put a lot of more money into them, but still the tents are the same size, maybe slightly bigger than the ones in Blumhouse. Doesn't look like there's any indoor space. I don't know how they do this house with such an iconic character from HHN now. And I hate that they're putting it in this. Like, Fast and Furious does have the potential to be good. We've only seen 2 examples. One that got pretty okay reviews, and one that got terrible reviews, which was Chucky. So like, we're not like at like 2 failures in a row or something. The only one that is considered a failure was Chucky. So you know, it's not like it can't be good in this space. I'm just worried because the space is tight, and I kind of want this factory setting to be bigger and more grand. I would have liked something like, I don't know, Insidious to go here, because I don't care about that property really. But I don't know. It is what it is. It's where we are. It's unfortunate. I hope this is the year that Fast and Furious proves itself to be like, we're not only can be just an okay location, but we can be a grand location and absolutely fantastic. I hope this is the year that blows it out of the water. But unfortunately, because of how hyped I was for Chucky Ultimate Kill Count and how let down I was for Chucky Ultimate Kill Count, how I thought that was just very, very, very poor in almost every way, in set, story, whatever, in that particular location, I am going to have a lot of fear until I actually see it. Because I do think once I actually see it, there is a world where it's great. I'm worried. I have concerns. And I would rather something I didn't care about be put in there, but it is what it is, and I just have to live with it until we walk through. But yeah, that is my rant, Duff. You can continue. But I am curious to see what all of you guys think about suites going in Fast and Furious. I don't have like the feature to put the. Oh, there you are. You're back. Hi Duff.
Let me guess. Oh no, major suites. Ooh, Fast and Furious is a house location. Oh,
yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. That was a great summary.
I figured. So let's pull up some of the comments that we got about these house locations. I did not expect Triplets of Terror to be Soundstage House. I will simply what the house description is. Yeah, actually, maybe a bit surprising. But we have heard rumors that there's an expectation that this house will kind of be this year's Dead Man's Pier or Blood Moon Dark Offerings, in the sense that it's going to have very large scale open sets at points.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously in one of the sound stages, that's much more possible.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see what they do for those sets. You know, I'm not super hyped right now for the house just because of reasons we've already discussed before. But I mean, if this could be the set house, I mean, I think that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Arkham says cookies makes a lot of noise. That's true. Like a wrapper or sleeve of cookies.
They do.
They're loud as hell. Or when you're chewing on them, they can be loud.
Mm-hmm.
Cookies are loud. Maybe.
Yeah.
Now, I like this energy, Kevin. I think major suites will make Fast and Furious a good location.
Let's hope. I would, you know, it's possible. I thought Chucky could make Fast and Furious a great location.
Chloe adds on, Jonathan, this is going to be the one that breaks the curse. Have faith.
I'm hoping, Chloe. I believe, kind of, not really, but I need to believe.
Third time's a charm.
Exactly.
Will we be saying fourth time next year? Maybe. Who knows? But for now, third time.
Don't put that evil on me, Duff. Don't say that.
I think this is relating to triplets and the scale of the sets. Obviously, we don't know for a fact, but yeah, the rumor is truly that it is going to be very large scale sets for Triplets of Terror. If Sweets disappoints, everyone is going to be pissed. Yeah. People are very excited to see Sweets come back for the most part, and dropping the ball on any original that was loved is not going to go over too well, I don't think so.
Oh, absolutely not. I'll be pissed personally.
Luigi's joined us. I'd
at
be
that,
less
hello.
worried about suites being in Fast and Furious if there wasn't a very real possibility it would just utilize the tents this year and none of the indoor queue.
Mm-hmm. I brought that up too. It doesn't
Yeah.
look like in any of the. I mean, we have bioreconstruct photos now above. We can see the indoor queue has not been touched. Like the only thing we have now for construction are those tents that are essentially. Luigi, correct me if I'm wrong, but like essentially the same size as the ones we had for Blumhouse. Like a little bit bigger, but not by too much. So if that's all the space we have for the house, where's the rest of the house? Like, is the whole house going to be in those tents? Which, if it is, oh god.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I curious how this works compared to the past couple of years there. I don't think changes in that location are necessarily a bad thing though, so it could be for the better.
It as long as the house, like, I just want it to stay relatively the same length. It's like one thing where it's like, oh, we changed the way the layout of the house is and you go a different way. It's another saying, remember this huge chunk of the house that took up like at least a half of it? That's not here anymore. It's not here. And it's like, wait, what do you mean? It's like, why is half the house not here?
Yeah, that's fair. But that location was already typically longer than the others.
It's true.
So
That's true.
there's room to cut some of the length off, to be completely honest. Not that I want shorter houses, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'd see why they could. Live your life a quarter way at a time. This is a good point from Kelly. Glad that Quiet Place has its own soundstage, both for the noise levels and having more room to work with. I think a big question on people's minds for a Quiet Place has been, what about sound bleed? Well, you could worry about sound bleed from room to room, but at least now you don't have to worry about it into another house.
This was a very smart choice because because HHN houses are loud. They're really loud. And a lot of times you can, in some instances, hear other houses from certain points, wherever you are in another house. So making sure there's no possibility of that for a Quiet Place, I think, is a very smart decision.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Especially when
Now,
that's the whole gimmick.
Do you care at all about any of their house locations as far as like what's in them right now?
Like besides
Fast and Furious and Suites.
Besides Suites, I think everything else fits really well. I'm excited that the two main sprungs we're getting, the two Sprung 1 and 2 are a combo of Slaughter Cinema 2, which is in the same exact location, which amazing for nostalgia reasons, really. And Museum, the other one. I think that's a great combo. And I think this is another year where I think that the Sprungs might reign supreme once again.
What's new?
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember. Did you mention the two announcements we haven't received where we expect those to be?
Oh, well, the rumored Insidious is another soundstage. I don't remember the number.
24A.
24A. There we go. And then rumored Monsters is in the other new Sprung tent.
Sprung tent 3.
Sprung tent 3. But that would mean that all of the main IPs, I'm sorry, Monsters. I'm really sorry. We love you. You're probably going to be the best IP, but you're not in the public's eyes. No one really cares. And, the main IPs, the ones that are going to draw, the ones that get, the money and people buy tickets for, are in the front of the park. They're all the way at the, the left side, where you're entering. They're all by the sound stages. There is no one in Fast and Furious to sort of break them up. There is no one in the new Sprung tents or the old Sprung tents. All of the big draws are right there on one side of the park. And that is probably going to change the flow of how the general guests move through the park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like we're kind of going back to pre-HHN 30, we'll call it, where a lot of the time your biggest IPs were just right up front in the sound stages, and that was about it. Which obviously led to a specific, like you mentioned, crowd flow. People up front more often than not. But also for people like us who like to visit a lot, it gives us kind of an escape. It can bring us back to when Duff Gardens was my favorite Stay and Scream area, and maybe that'll come back again, because it can get bad. I think HHN 29 was a good showing of that, of how bad crowds can be up front when they're all packed into the sound stages. The thing is, I don't think it really ruins park flow. People immediately come and hop into the queue, but those houses are going to be long for most of the night. And when you spread them out, I think it balances it a bit better for waits.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm excited, like you said, for the local standpoint of like, especially with Slaughter Cinema in the back there. It's gonna be like, yeah, I'm just gonna, walk in. Oh, Slaughter Cinema is still only 20 minutes. No mind if I do, walk all the way over there. If I get in like maybe like 30, 40 minutes later or after park open, like the tents are still pretty dead, and just walk right there. So that's gonna be good. And I'm excited for that aspect. But yeah, if you like want to be the person, like I sometimes am with my friends and stuff, like I'm like, I want to hit all 10. You kind of have to do New York Stay and Scream, or else you're not going to have a chance. Like you have to do New York. You have to hit the IPs right away, or else I really don't. You're going to be waiting in like 2-hour, 3-hour long lines the way that the houses are oriented. So the New York Stay and Scream, unlike before where sometimes there was a benefit to doing Duff Gardens for the other IPs, or sometimes even Fast and Furious, there was a benefit to hit Chucky, whatever. There is really only one Stay and Scream now. If your goal is to hit all 10, that makes the most sense, and that's going to be New York. There is no other one that will help you in that particular instance if what we think is where the IPs are true for Insidious.
And that's depending if they keep kind of the corrals the same as they have been. If they change that again, we have no idea what's going to come of that. So
yep,
we'll see. We'll see. I grew to like New York's Stay and Scream a lot more than I did in years past, specifically last year. It sounds like that might have been a 1-year situation for me.
So nice to do New York and then being like, I'm going to walk into Dragons. Then you do Dragons, like, I'm going to do Dragons again, and then I'm going to do Yeti. Like, that was such a calm environment. It's probably going to be so packed now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Kevin, I'm excited to see what the inside of the new tents are like. Well, they look big and nice and new. So I'm excited too. I can't wait to experience new locations. We don't get those too often. So the fact that we get 2 that are literally brand new, like just built, that's pretty fun. I'm excited to see something new and shiny.
Oh, yeah. Always got like a new and shiny thing.
And I think other than that, we are going to start wrapping up here. So if you have any last minute comments or questions, or you want to yell at us, whatever it may be, get that going in the comment section, and we'll get to it before we close out here. But I want to hop over to Galvanized Horror, who says, hopefully Thursday, let's go. IP and a frequent fear pass for Orlando. I mean, if you're looking at the schedule and kind of how it's been falling, even though it's been a little inconsistent, this coming Thursday seems like as good of time as any for us to get our next house announcement. And
Yep.
based on what time of year it is, that very likely could mean multi-night tickets as well. So we can finally drop $800 on our tickets, Jonathan.
Oh, Whippy, so happy. I do have a fun question for you, Duff.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 for Orlando. We have 2 more rumored IPs to be announced. We got Insidious. We got Monsters. Are they going to dump Monster? Are we going to get Insidious, Frequent Fear, and they also dump Monsters with it? Or do you think they're going to... They could do Monsters, then Insidious, Frequent Fear. Or they could just straight up do Insidious, Frequent Fear, then Monsters. How do you think they're going to do it? There's a lot of different combinations.
I'm not going to pick a specific combination, but I'm going to say the IPs are not together.
Okay.
So I think we're going to get one IP with Frequent Fear, and then the other IP maybe with Scare Zones and Shows.
That would make sense. I could see them doing that. I don't know if they do. I'm trying to think if they're going to do a full-on like trailer this year, because they didn't last year. Last year they did not do a trailer. But this year, if the rumors are true about it being female monsters, I mean, Universal cares a lot about how much money they can make in merch and how, like, what eyes they can get on them. And Bride of Frankenstein is a, hugely popular character. Like the merch, she sells so much merch at Universal. So maybe this will be a year where, like, yeah, it makes sense to invest in a trailer because Bride's actually marketable compared to, I love the Phantom. I think he's awesome, and Invisible Man and Hunchback, but I get why maybe some people are like, yeah, no, not worth it for them. Mm-hmm. But Bride, they did it before and it was awesome. So maybe they'll do it again. Who knows?
Yep, I hope so. And I'm going to hop to 2 comments from Arkham here. One being, speaking of Soundstage, we might get a new one for Hollywood.
Soundstage 12, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Because previously it's been in recent years at least Soundstage 15 and Soundstage 22. Um, Now they've kind of switched that up from, and this was on spec maps, from the original 22 and 15 as we typically have to now 12.
And apparently it's a big soundstage. Like this thing's massive. Classic movies have been filmed in here. It's called now, I think, the Voice soundstage because the Voice was in there. Like it's a huge location. And what are we thinking? I think the rumor on the last thing was Monsters in there.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it might have, because they swapped spots. Weekend Monsters swapped spots, and I don't remember which one went to 12.
I think Weekend went to. No, I think Monsters went to 12.
Okay.
But I'm not. I don't quote me on that. But if it did, I think I said this on the podcast. It'd be really funny after Unmasked very noticeably got cut with budget. Like it was very obvious that things were supposed. Murdy said it. Like things that were supposed to be in there just got cut. If this year Murdy's like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. So this year Monsters is gonna get the fucking biggest location we have. And I think that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be a great space to work with from what I've heard about the actual location. So I'd be excited. And then also from Arkham, I know it was announced a while ago, but Singapore announced a house for Netflix, Sweet Home. Yeah, I guess we haven't talked about either of the international announcements yet on the live streams. So we have the Korean horror series from Netflix, Sweet Home, coming to Singapore. And then we also have, I believe it's called Chainsaw Man, which is an anime/manga coming to HHN Japan. I believe now confirmed to be a show.
Yep, 4D show experience.
Yep. So we do have 2 IP announcements for international events as well. I have not experienced either. I don't know Machine Man? Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man. I don't know. I didn't know what that was at all until that announcement. However, Sweet Home is apparently supposed to be a really good series that I've heard good things about that I should really go check out. So
they also announced the Chucky house is coming back to Japan.
Mhm.
And a Resident Evil, I glanced at this, so I don't have a super crazy idea of it, but it's Resident Evil 360 house. I think this is new, but it might not be. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's their lineup. I think you got 2 houses, the 40 Chainsaw Man show. There's a couple other experiences that we'll get to in more detail, probably in a later podcast. But yeah, that's Japan's event, unless they come up with a surprise later.
Well, they really haven't recovered from COVID yet, if that's the case.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then going back to talking about monsters and location, was it Silver Scream Queens? Maybe not exactly, but potentially.
Potentially, it's very possible.
I think even if it's nothing like what we saw previously as Silver Scream Queens, this is a potential option for the name.
I agree. I agree with that.
All right, and I guess with that, we're just going to wrap up this live stream. It was nice to finally get to chat on the YouTube about these 3 announcements we've gone over. It sounds like we're at a point where we should be getting a few more of these, so we should keep live streaming. But we appreciate everyone coming. Of course, we do have our podcast episodes weekly. You're going to hear a lot of what we just said tonight on our next podcast episode dropping this coming Monday. Other than that, any last thoughts about what we've talked about, Jonathan?
No, I mean, I'm excited. We don't have many announcements left. We got 2 for Orlando, plus, other stuff like zones and stuff. We have, I will say I'm excited for Hollywood's exclusive announcements, because I do wonder how they're going to drop them, if they're going to have like one announcement during Midsummer or both during Midsummer, or how they're going to do that. I'm excited to see those announcements. But yeah, like we're at the point now, HHN is literally next month. It's not like a month from now, but it's next month. Mm-hmm. It's August 30th. I'm asking the horror tours start even sooner. Where I'm gonna have to avoid social media and not look at it at all. But we're practically here. We're so close now, and I feel like construction is about to start really ramping up in the park. It has to. Like I feel like we can wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, there's a big giant prop, like right in the, right in San Fran or something like that. Like we're so close now, and I think this has been a fantastic speculation season. And I'm very happy that Universal has been dropping announcements. I have not felt starved since they started doing it. So yeah.
Mhm. Can you believe it's like literally about 5 weeks until people step foot into some HHN houses for their
Oh my
unmasking the
God.
horror tours, and about 5 weeks till I have to hop off social media for 4
Literally
or 3 or whatever it is. So yeah.
wild. Absolutely wild.
But in the meantime, until we have another stream, again, if an announcement does come, I'm sure you'll hear from us shortly after that. Follow us on social media at HHN365, or if that's TikTok, that's HHN365pod. Go to our link tree if you want to join our Discord server, where we just chat nonstop about rumors, announce things, speculating about the announced things. It's a lot of fun, so come hop in over there. And until we're back next time, thanks so much for joining the stream. We will see everyone soon.